as a. Oh no, never mind. I'm not going to say anymore.
I got a text from Bob W. A1OJN. He lost his dipoles.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't gone out yet with my 20-meter dipole. I know when I went out this morning, late morning, one side was almost where it normally is, and the other side was almost wrapped around the gutter. So it's not looking good.
Well, I have mine. I have mine on pulleys and sash weights.
Yeah, well, this is an aluminum tubing dipole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My antenna looks like this. It does.
Yeah, the rain is really playing havoc with my dipoles.
Yeah, I think either one leg of my 160 broke, or
Is my microphone working?
yes, it is, Juergen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Hey,
good.
Juergen.
You sound good.
Yeah. My antenna is in the garage. It was very well protected.
Well, you got to put that wheel back on your bicycle again. It's. Oh well, hey Jackie. So how are things down in Virginia? Oh, all we see is fog.
Is that the ceiling or the floor?
I don't know. Got a little fog. I don't know what it is. Are you back home, Mark? I think that's your painting in your house, right?
Yes. I came back to Connecticut to enjoy the nor'easter.
You didn't want to miss out on it, Mark, huh?
Right.
Did you get? I'm going to be heading to West Hartford to a client. I got a client in Bloomfield and West Hartford tomorrow. Did you guys get any snow at all down there?
Actually, it's been mostly rain. There's really very little snow on the ground. It's just windy. Other than that, it's the northwest and the northeast hills that have got all the snow.
Hey, Larry?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting a dusting now. We didn't have anything earlier. It was just rain, but I was talking to someone over in Canton, up on the ridge, and they've got 8 inches of wet snow from last night and whatever they got today. So there are spots.
Yeah, we've got 3 inches maybe here, and it's all muck. I watched the plows go by, and it looked like they were plowing water. They look like waterfalls and stuff. Hey there's Jackie.
Hi.
So how's the weather down in Eastern Virginia?
Oh, it was beautiful today. It was so hot and sunny if you were in the car, but it was cold outside, and it's very, very windy. And you guys terrified me. I just ran outside to see if my dipole was still up. I've been away for 5 days, and I just got back about half an hour ago. So it never even occurred to me to check my antenna. That should have been the first thing I checked, but everything is good down here. No snow.
How about you in Northampton, John?
We got kind of dumped on. We got, I don't know, it seemed like 8 or 9 inches. It's hard to tell. It was all like mashed potatoes. It was so hard to deal with. But yeah, it was really significant. In fact, even up until, I can't see because I don't have my glasses on, but even up until a half hour ago, it was still snowing.
Wow.
Yeah, my antenna was like a big, huge V, and I hit it with something, and it would bounce back up, but not to its full glory.
Alan, are you still in Longmeadow, or have you moved?
Yeah, I'm still right around the corner from you, just because I haven't shown up at the meetings. But yeah, so I'm getting the same. Just like it's been snowing all day, and we've got like an inch. It just keeps melting.
It was dripping earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, my friend in Syracuse area, KC2FEV, we were texting him back earlier, and he was saying the governor shut down the highways for commercial traffic between Newburgh and Syracuse, and he said it was snowing really, really hard, really fast. I think in the period of an hour, he had like 6 inches fell, or 2 hours. I mean, it came down really fast, and all of a sudden he said stopped, and the wind picked up, and I haven't heard from him since. So I don't know if he's buried or good. I'll find out later. Anyways, let's see. I think it's everybody stopped coming in, so we can get the meeting rolling here. Welcome to the Share the Knowledge session for March 14th, 2023. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us here. Oh, we got somebody else coming in. And for those of you that don't know, we decided to postpone drawing the raffle ticket because the turnout at the Mountain Time Flea was pretty dismal. And when we were going to draw the raffle, there was virtually nobody there. So we decided to wait. We're going to draw it at the show and tell meeting, the April meeting at the HCRA meeting in April. So anybody who wants to buy tickets or buy additional tickets, you can buy them there, and we'll draw them in front of our membership. And whoever wins will, if they're in the room, will walk away with the prize. If they're not in the room, we'll find a way to get it to them. Let's see what else is going on with the club here. The 10-meter net on Monday nights is going strong. Gary did a great job last night. He's our net control. I think I'm net control next Monday. But going strong with that. How many check-ins we have last night, Gary? 8 check-ins? You're muted there. Yeah, we can't read your lips from so far away either. Okay,
it was around there.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been going good, and we've been having good times. Good questions and good conversation. And so if you're around Monday nights, 28375 at 7 p.m., join us and point your antenna towards Longmeadow, Springfield, Holyoke area if you have a pointing antenna, and join in the fun. Zero beat, Ken. The deadline's come and gone, right?
Well, it's actually the 15th. Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Well,
is tomorrow. Yeah. So,
well, if anybody has anything they want to put in Zero Beat, please get it over to Ken tonight or tomorrow, so we can get it in the publication for April. And if you haven't been reading Zero Beat, you should be. The last issue was 32 pages. It was like a small magazine versus having a newsletter. Ken's been doing an amazing job, so we all thank you for that. And the articles have been excellent, and all the contributors have been excellent too. Let's see here. And in 2 weeks from today, on the 28th, we're going to have WB1ARU and KC1 KGS. Ann and Barbara are going to talk on the Young Ladies Radio League, the YLRL. And that should be interesting. Other than by name, I don't know much about them. So that'll be interesting. And that's the last Share the Knowledge for March. And then we have one more after that. Ray, AA1SE, is going to talk about the ARRL. So you can bring your questions or complaints or whatnot and bring that up with Ray. And if it's anything major, he'll bring it up to Fred at the New England Division Director. And are there any other announcements or anything that I'm missing, guys? We got part of the board here. I don't think so. Okay, with that, we're gonna turn it over to Juergen. I assume you want me to share screen, Juergen?
Yes, that would be nice.
Okay. Oh, they changed the menu here.
How does it work now?
Yeah, they changed the menu, and I'm looking. It's not just share screen anymore, I guess. Let me
Most
see.
disabled. Okay, you have to do
Okay,
it. Huh?
okay, all right, I got it now. Anyways, Juergen's going to tell us all about modern radio teletype, and the floor is yours.
Okay, now why do I have no? Oh, just before. Who has used really in the past? I know almost everybody. John, you did. So Larry, you never did?
Well, I did it a long time ago. It's built into my
okay.
radio, but I've never used it.
Okay, well, so now I'm still have. So how do I just share the screen? Is that how it works?
Yeah, you should be able to just bring your screen up. Yeah, click share on your side and bring your
Yeah, I
screen
did
up.
that. Okay, now where do I get? Let me see. Files. Okay.
Down in the bottom bar, it might be highlighted in green. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, but still, I don't know why I'm not here.
So
I see.
minimize that
Okay,
and
okay, I see what you mean. So let me just close that here. Okay. Yeah, I used the normally open office. It's okay. Is it? Can you see it?
Looks
yes.
good.
Does it? Okay. Does it have still this on top? I have a bar here. I don't know what that. Do you see that too?
No, it
Oh,
looks
it's
like
nope,
just a
nope.
slide.
Okay. Okay. So let me see. When Larry asked me quite a while ago to talk about RTTY, and when he came up as modern RTTY, I really don't know, Larry, what you meant by that. So not a lot has really changed, I think, almost since 100 years. I mean, maybe it's become a little bit more modern, but so when I put this together, I think I start from the beginning. Just a little bit talk about me. You all know me, or most of you at least. And I'm a ham since 1967. In 1963, I joined the German Air Force, and I was sent to school, to radio school, for 6 months. There we learned the Morse code, and also how to operate RTTY and how to type. So in order to graduate, we had to be able to copy 16 words, not that much. We had to copy it. The test was 5 minutes, and you could make 5 errors, and then you passed. And also we had to type 120 characters on the teletype machine, and we had to be able to read 30 of those Bordeaux codes, and we will talk about that. So in I think it was 65, I finally was at a radio station there at the Air Force, was running that station, and most of the time we were using RTTY, except when there was a lot of QRM, we had to, because RTTY is very sensitive, so we had to change frequency. And the problem is when you're in the Air Force, or when you operate a commercial radio station, you are assigned a frequency, and you cannot deviate. It's not like ham radio; we're much better off. So if we run RTTY and it's distorted, or we have problems, we just move a little bit below or above. You cannot do this. So when you work a commercial station, you have to be on that frequency, and it doesn't work, then you have to change the frequency, go into a different one. So we use mostly then Morse code just to change to a different frequency. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. I think this was not RTTY, this was more like TTY. And it started basically with those two guys, Carl Gauss and Wilhelm Weber. They built the first electromagnetic telegraph in 1833. So they ran 2 lines about 1 kilometer, which is about 2/4 of a mile, across the roofs of towers of Göttingen. Göttingen is a city in the northern part of Germany, and it was running from one building, a university building, to another university building. They were using their own code, and it was basically very. It was just a line plus, they were running a DC line and actuating a needle, a magnetic needle. Or the needle was horizontal, and it was either turned to the left or turned to the right, and this is the code. So if the needle turned to the right, it was like once, it was an A. If it turned to the left twice, it was an F. So that's how they communicated in those days. And Gauss was he was probably one of the smartest people around at that time. An interesting story. Maybe we should bring this up here. When he was I think in fourth grade or third grade, his teacher wanted to get a break, so he figured he has to keep those children busy, and he said, "Okay, why don't you count all the numbers from 1 to 100?" And he said, "Well, that will keep him busy for a while, and I can read my newspaper." So it didn't take that long. Gauss, he put up his hand and said, "I'm done." And then the teacher couldn't believe it. So he found out a pattern. And basically, when you take, he started from both ends of 100. When you take 100 plus 1, it's 101. If you take 99 plus 2, it's 101. If you take 98 and 3, it's 101. So it always comes out to 101 until you get to 50, and 51 is also 101. So that's 50 times. So he multiplied that by 50, and he came up with 5050. So he was done in no time. That's when his teacher, he put him under his wings, so to speak, and he studied, and he became very successful. And also the Gauss is a measure of the electric or the magnetic field. I mean, so then the other person, was Emile Bedeau. He joined in 1869. He was born on a farm in France. He joined the French Post and Telegraph Administration as an operator. So he had to learn Morse code, and he was learning Morse code over wire, obviously. And he invented a code in 1870, a 5-bit code that is almost used today with some variations. And they used whatever was developed by Gauss and Weber in 1839. So they based also their code on that. And Emile Bordeaux, his first patent was assigned in 1873. And sometimes you read when you try to or when you're on the internet, you read he got his patent for the Bordeaux code, and that is not true. The French patent office doesn't allow or will not accept the Bordeaux code, would not accept the Bordeaux code. It was a concept, and you cannot patent a concept in France. What was patented actually in 1874 was his telegraph that he was using. So the code that he created looks like this. And he developed a 5-bit code. And because when you have 5 bits, you only have 32 variations. However, the letters alone are 26, and you have characters, you have numbers. So those bits have a double assignment. The upper line here, you see the alphabet, and here you see characters and numbers. So when you switched over from a letter to a number, you had to use one of these here, the code. There are letters or are figures. And I showed this on my call sign. Maybe this is easier to see. These are the characters or the letters CQ. Here you have NV. And now, because the one, you see this one here, this is the code for the numbering, which is this one here, the figures. So when you use this one here, then whatever comes after, is a number, in this case, the number 1. And then it switches back to characters or letters, and you have the Q. If you look at the one, sorry, I have to go back. That's not okay. If you look at the 1 and the Q, you can see it's the same. It's the same characters, the same number of bits, and so. But what makes a difference is this one here. When it switches over, this one here is the character for the figures. So it switches over, then it becomes a 1. Obviously, after the Q, you have to go back to the letter. So this was a pretty smart move. And this is in those days how those tapes looked like. I don't know whether some of you have seen those, but if you look at the code, see there's a character. This one here is looks like the letters. There's a letter here, and then there's a number, and then these codes are here. This one and this one is for carriage return and line feed. This is one in the 1940. I think in the that was about the time in the 1920s, 1930s when they used those teleprinters. This one is from the early days, World War II or prior World War II. This one here, I read it. I never saw this one. Apparently was sold as surplus after the war, and a number of hams used it. This is a modern one that people used in the 60s and the 70s. And this one is the one that I'm more familiar with. And it was a mechanical marble. It was so interesting watching how this apparatus was working. Here you can see, maybe a little bit more. This is how you see the characters here, the character arms, and each character has here, it's hard to see, but it has the letter and whatever is also the figure. And depends when for instance the code came for the figures, for the letters, the whole cartridge actually moved up, and then there was the bar that hit this letter arm, and so it hit the letter, the number actually onto the tape here, and it's these bars here. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the bars that represent those individual bits, and they were mechanically attached to this round bar, whatever you call this, and they moved up and they moved in either direction, and depends which letter was called for. The letter arm was falling into a slot, and then down at the bottom, this I call it almost a hammer, was hitting only that bar across the or onto the tape and then onto the paper. You might have seen this one. Sometimes you can see it, not that often. In the old days, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, and then the numbers, and then R, Y, R, Y. The reason for this was to testing the teletyper, because these one here, this sentence contains all the letters of the alphabet. Then you have the numbers here, and these here, the RY, you see, it always alternates. Where a plus is a minus here, and where a minus is a plus there. So that how you actually could see whether the teletype or the teletyper was working correctly. And we use it quite often as a test, just to see how we were, or how the other station was receiving us, but also to see whether our own equipment was working. And some people still use it. You might have seen this and say, what is that? Why is it being used? Well, this is some leftover from the old days. Now we're coming to a baud rate, and the baud rate, just in general, is baud rate is 1 divided by t, which t is the length of a unit. What was that? Okay, so where was I? So one pulse or 1 bit, it's is 22 milliseconds. So you divide this by 22 milliseconds, and you come up to 45. sometimes only called 45. And you probably have used really, you have seen, they ask you what is your baud rate, and you type in 45. It's actually 45.45, 45, so it continues forever. So the baud rate is defined the number of signals per second, which is not always the data rate. In most cases it is, but it's like bits per second. And that comes up, so the maximum words you can type or can transmit would be 60 words per minute. If you calculate, that comes to 60 words per minute. Now, when you go to RTTY, you cannot send some pulses like in the when you're using a typewriter. It uses the 40 milliamp, I think was the line current they call it, to operate those teletype machines. Now, when you use radio teletype, we have to come up with something else, and that's what's called the frequency shift, or you have a transmitter that shifts between two frequencies, and the difference is 170 hertz. So if you run your radio on 14080 kilohertz and you use RTTY, you shift below. This is actually what you see on your radio, on your dial, and this is where it shifts to. So this is your transmitting frequency. Let me see, and it shifts 170 kilohertz below. And what it's called mark and space. You might have heard those terminology. Here's, for instance, a letter of the letter D. And something else I have to say is, or I have to explain is, you have a 5-bit code. It is actually almost is 8-bit, because this comes from the old day when you have a mechanical device. You have a start pulse, and you have a stop pulse. The stop pulse is a 0, or all through the space. It's called space. If you have a bit on, it's called mark. And you have the stop pulse, and the stop pulse is the length of 2 bits. So that means it has 44 milliseconds. So again, you have the mark. It's or plus, it's on, space is off, and it varies the lengths of the pulses, and that creates the character. And that's here is your frequency, your transmitter frequency, and here again, this is what you have. Actually, you have your TX, your dial reads this one here. It shifts down to 170 hertz below. There's some other characters on my call sign. Same thing here. You have the start bit, and here you have the 2 stop bits, and here you have the space, and here the mark. These represent those characters here. The N, the V, and here again the 1. And this is the character for the figures, and here the characters for the letters. And that sometimes when you run RTTY, you all of a sudden you get all numbers. Why is that? Because when this character actually, or this was sent, the figure, if it wasn't, if you had some QRM at that time, or some, what is that? So if this was not received correctly, then everything after that is numbers. And sometimes when you run a contest and people give the numbers, all of a sudden you don't get the numbers, you get just the letters. So in this case, I always, when I do this, I always have this code in front of me, because sometimes you can ask for the number again, but the person's already gone in the contest. So you just take this code and just convert the letters into the numbers. So what is needed? Now we're going to radio teletype. What is needed for radio? Obviously, we need a radio, a computer, some software, and the interface. And this is a typical diagram. You have your rig, your radio, you have an interface box, and you have a PC with a sound card. So your character, when you transmit, is created as a sound, is brought over to the interface. Goes through the interface box into your rig, or when you receive it, it comes as audio. Actually, goes into the interface box and goes to the sound card, and the sound card then interprets what character it is. And this is why really the way we know it was only able well, you only were able to do it when the sound cards were approved. And there are some, obviously we need software, ready software. Here are some Hamscope. I don't know this one here. I found it. Some people use it. I read. DigiPen, I have seen. The most important one is this one here, MMTTY. And I will talk about this a little later. DXLab and also the contest logging software N1MM also use RTTY, but it uses the MMTTY engine. So when you set up your TTY or your RTTY in DXLab and N1MM, you actually set it up in the MMTTY software. The interface, Rig Expert, Rig Blaster, there's Signal Link. I think MFG has one. MFG. They're expensive. I think Rig Expert has about $140. Rig Blaster probably even more. So it is expensive, the interface. There's another possibility. You can build your own. So this is one that I came up with, and it not only uses RTTY, but you can also use interface for CW and some other digital modes. And what you really need is you need when you interface your sound card with your computer, you need a audio transformer. That's one here. This is the audio transformer. So your audio comes from your PC, goes through the audio transformer, and then into your radio, or it comes from the radio to the audio transformer and back to the computer. And as an interface, because you also have to run your PTT. So the PTT you mostly have to access it's an RS-232 on your radio serial output here. Looks like this one here. And so you have to key one of these inputs to the radio, and you could use just from your just probably one transistor, but you need I like a galvanic isolation, so I always use optocoupler to isolate my signal from the radio to the computer. And this is how it looks as an interface. The board, here the isolation transformer, here are the optocoupler, and here, as you can see, ready. Let's use a key. There's a PTT. This one here costs you about $6. So compare that to maybe $130 for one of the commercial available interface. I think I prefer this one. And I think we have a few hams in our club that use this. I still have some of these available. I still have the printed circuit board available. And also the parts. One terminology is AFSK and FSK, and you probably have heard about it. AFSK is what we mostly using. It's audio frequency shifting. So the audio of your radio, the audio comes out of your radio and goes to your computer and to the sound card. And also the audio then from your computer goes to your radio. Now, that is what we call audio frequency shifting, because you use the audio from your computer to shift the frequency in the radio. The modern radio, and I think probably in the last 10 years, all radios that came out in the last 10 years have as a mode next to maybe CW or lower band, upper band, they have FSK. And FSK actually, you get a signal from the computer that shifts the frequency directly. So it's not the audio. The signal out of your computer shifts the frequency in the radio. This is preferable if you have it. People say it creates a better signal. I don't know. I have never tried that. It would be maybe nice to someday try the difference with AFK and FSK. Whenever I can, I use frequency shifts to key in the just a little bit of history in the 1980, actually, that's when really started, or when ham operator started to use the computer. And this one here in the early days, this PK 232 came out in 1980. It was expensive. I remember it, at one time I looked at that one, I said, no, that was expensive to me. And then came Makoto Mori, and he created a software. And that software that was created in 2000, it's still being used today. And when he created it, he shared it with his friends, and somebody in the States, I think, got knowledge of it, and they asked him whether he could provide them with the software. Also, at that time, everything was in Spanish. The menu was in Spanish, in Japanese. And so he then rewrote, or had help to came up with a English version of the manual. And from then on, really became, I think, more popular, and that's when I started. Also, I said when I was leaving the Air Force, I said, well, that's it. I never run RTTY again. I've heard it for 5 years, did it for 5 years, and actually, I think it was probably 2002 or so. I got interested in this, so I'll have to check it out. And so I loaded the RTTY software, and I really got hooked on it. And this is, I don't want to get into the software itself. That takes probably another couple of hours almost to introduce that one and what it can do. But this is how the screen looks. Here you see the mark and the space. So you line your radio up, that these two tops here line up with the lines here, and then you also see those rings actually, and if it's correctly on the if you correctly on the frequency, these are about 90 degrees to each other. Here you see the waterfall. And I don't want to get into all of this. Yeah, there you see the settings. A lot of settings. It takes a while to set this up, and sometimes you need a little bit of help if you got stuck somewhere. But I think we have enough people in the club that can help us there. Here you see the 170 hertz shift, and then there's a lot of settings. if you really want to start and or use RTTY, this is something maybe to download. It's from AA5EU. He has a website, and there's a lot about RTTY. And this one is a whole write-up. I think it's about 9 pages. It goes from the beginning. It talks about a lot about MMTTY and how to install and how to run it. So I highly can recommend just download this one here, and if you want to get into RTTY. So RTTY is, I think it's fun to operate. I think it's more fun than JT. I have to say that. There are contests. I like this one here, the CQ Worldwide RTTY contest. This is a nice contest. And there's some others. This one is, I think, it's a Polish contest. This one is a Swedish contest. There's one thing you have to be alert about, and caution. RTTY mode is 100% duty cycle. So you cannot run your radio with full power. You have to set it to about 50 to 70. Some people say 30 to 50 to be safe. When I was running on linear, which was able of 1 kilowatt, I was running RTTY with about 700 watts. So if your radio has 100 watts, so I would definitely not go over 70. And this is very important. And if you did it a lot, then there are awards, and there's also this award, the Europa RTTY Award. I think I received this a few years back. Number 38. It's nice. You can put it next to your radio, and this really looks good. And this was 45 minutes. I think it was very short, a brief, but if there are some questions, I can answer them now. Thanks for listening.
Very good. Anybody have any questions? You can unmute yourself or raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Juergen, that was great. Thank you. I've been curious about RTTY for a while. What does a typical contact sound like in a RTTY contest? Like what's the exchange?
It's almost like a CW. It's the same thing like the WPX. It's just a serial number. So you say 59, 599, and then a serial number.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Why do you prefer that to say some of the other digital modes? What is it that attracts you about that?
Well, you can sit and use your mouse and run it, and it's you when you run RTTY and you have the receive page or receive window, you see a bunch of characters. So if you tune the band and you come across some RTTY station, you will actually then almost if you would run the CW reader, it's also when you run a CW reader, if it in N1MM at least it picks up a real call sign, it changes the color of that call sign, and the same in RTTY. So you have all the call signs, and you just click on those in the receive page, and then you don't have to punch actually anything. You don't have to type in the call sign.
Got it.
It's again, I think it's not as nerve-wracking as a CW contest.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
What about when you do a RTTY QSO? Because there is RTTY activity outside of contesting, right?
Do anything. It's like the same you would do in phone. I mean, you type in, okay, my name is, or when you did PSK. I mean, I don't know how PSK is these days. I haven't really done it in a couple of years, I think. but it's
It's
very
pretty
similar. So
dead.
you tell your name, you type, you call about, talk about your station, and you have also macros. So you use macros, for instance, in the Excel app, you can create your own macros. So you can tell them your name, your QTH, what you're using, what antenna you're using, and you can have a whole conversation just by typing.
Cool. Well, that's good.
So
And
that's
it's above and beyond what so many of the FT8 operators have, where it's just
Well, that's what it is, and that's why I mean, yeah, you can say really it's really just the same than JT because it's you really don't do anything. You can really have a conversation, and that's what I like. I mean, in a contest, I mean, it's like whether you have a phone contest or you have a CW contest. There's no real conversation, but you can have it if you want.
Brad has a question.
Yes. Yeah, it was fun. I trained in the U.S. Army Signal Corps in 1971 on the ANGR 626D, and then I think it was the 121 was its replacement coming on. Those machines comparable to the things that you trained on, old school punch paper tape, that sort of thing?
Yes, they were. They had, you had your, also you had your receiver, and then you had that interface box. I think that's what you were talking about, and then you had the teletyper. So it was very similar, and we had to read those punch tapes because when we were sending out a message or let's say you have 2 pages of information or 2 pages of messages that you send out. If you only get half of it because the rest was all the rest was all garbage, you didn't want to start from the beginning. So the other station, receiving station, came back and said, "Okay, I received everything after this sentences," and you put this in. So now you were going through your tape, your punch tape, and then so you found the place where the sentence was, and then that you put in your reader, and then you send it. So you don't have to send the whole page or the whole 2 pages or 3 pages, whatever it was again. I think you must have done a very similar.
Yeah, I remember there was one exercise. You might have had to do it a couple of times where instead of using the encryption technology, that I would have to sit there and punch in a couple pages of 5-letter code groups, and God help you if you made a mistake. It wasn't like there was whiteout for that paper tape.
Yeah, we were using, actually, it was, so we had the receiver, and then or let's see, when you were transmitting it, maybe it's easier to. So you put your actually your message in the reader of the teletype machine, and then from there the signal went to another box, and there was a description. It was a coding box. You have there were the station, the receiving station, and the transmitting station had a precise similar of the same code, the same tape, and each tape had a number at about maybe let's see, maybe 12 inches or so, 10 inches apart. There was a number, so it started with 001, 002, 0, and so on. So, and when we were transmitting a message, we told the receiving station to put their code that was in this coding machine at this number 005, for instance, and you put it in 005, and then those tapes were running synchronous. So if that was, and so whenever you had now a QRM, and for some reason all of a sudden they got out of the synchronous, then everything else was garbage afterwards. So that's why you didn't want to send all those pages again. you were reading it on the tape, on the punch tape, where the other station received you, and then just send that only those missing pages out. So we had I think it was a different system that we were using.
Okay, we have John, K1YYM has a question. Go ahead, John.
So I haven't done RTTY in a while, but when I was doing it, if I remember right, there were these extraneous characters at the end of each line or something. And does that sound accurate? And if so, what's the meaning of or why are these characters trailing off of each line? That doesn't sound
know
right.
what you really refer. You said that
if you're using FLDigi, I know it will sometimes decode the noise as RTTY characters.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's a problem with RTTY. Any noise is being interpreted as some character.
Yeah, so you get instead of noise in your headphones, like if you were working CW or sideband, you're watching noise in the form of random letters on the screen.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh, that's only we find that's, for instance, if you have a conversation in RTTY with someone and you stop transmitting, the receiving station at that point will receive some, like Al was saying, some garbage letters on the end, because these are some so that's are the characters that you see.
I mean, it doesn't, there's going to be noise anyways. It doesn't just continue on for pages and pages of garbage.
If you let it go, it will keep on going forever. You can fill up a whole page just with noise, just by putting in even or sending your receiver on what you think it's a clear frequency.
Great, thank you.
Interesting. Anybody else have any questions?
Juergen.
Larry, go ahead, Larry.
Okay, Juergen, I used to use PSK. I tried that back in, I think, 2011, 12, when I got my Signal Link interface. How is that different, RTTY different from PSK 31? And I used to have on the program that I had, because I downloaded Digipan, and it had MTY for RTTY. It had PSK. I went into tried the PSK, and it had these. What was it? You mentioned it. There were little blocks where you could put in your call sign, and it would be a CQ block. All you had to do was press that on the screen, or click on that, and it would send out a CQ with your call, or you would have another one that would say 73 and your call. Do they have that set up like that on RTTY?
Yeah, these are macros, and you can
macros,
set those. Yeah, macros. And I don't know whether you run the XLab. If you run, for instance, the XLab on even on CW, you can create a macro, and the same with PSK, you create a macro. N1MM, for instance, when you run a contest, you can create a macro, and so it's very. I think it's very similar. Yes. And PSK is also an audio signal. I'm not sure what kind of code they're using, but it's similar. So you need the same interface box to run PSK.
Yeah, I know, because I did do some typing, made a few contacts, and I ended up typing after a while. I got tired of typing, having a conversation back and forth. And with a few macros that it did have, it was easy just to press the button and to send the macro out and complete the the conversation. That was interesting. I'm gonna have to try RTTY next.
I think
on my 890.
I think Paul can. Paul, where are you? You like RTTY? I think you had a lot of fun working RTTY the contest.
Yeah, I did. I actually, a couple of years ago, I got interested in it, and between Juergen and Bob OJN, they got me going on it, and I've only really participated in it in the contests. But I learned how to set up the macros and all of that. It's been fun. Every time, every contest, is a learning experience. The one thing that I have found, however, is there's not a whole lot of activity on RTTY outside of the contest. Occasionally you'll find somebody sending a CQ and you can have a rag chew with them. I've done that, 2 or 3 times, but when you go up into the portions of the bands where you're likely to see RTTY, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of activity on a daily basis there. I mean, it's kind of hit or miss. But it's a lot of fun.
I see a lot of them on D Expeditions. They have RTTY. Also,
very rarely, Larry. Very rarely.
Yeah.
One advantage that RTTY has actually with all the digital modes that are on is it's very easy for people to identify by ear, as opposed to PSK 31, PSK 63, Domino, EX, Contestia. There's this whole family of HF digital modes that are, you hear them and it's one of those modes, and then you've got to shuffle through all the different settings to try and figure out what mode it is. Whereas RTTY is that distinctive deedle that
right away.
Yeah, I still have it in my ears. I was hearing this for 5 years. Believe me. I mean, it's yeah, but I think, and maybe JT has something to do with that. People just moved away from PSK and moved away from RTTY and just moved over to PSK.
I think that everybody moved away from all digital modes to FT because
and sideband and CW.
Yeah, it's just too easy. It's just too easy. Okay, anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Juergen, nice talk. I really enjoyed it. And I played with some RTTY myself, and I enjoy the contest. I think it's fun. You just sort of start at the low end and you just move up and hit each one. I'd like to throw out the idea of would there be any interest in maybe like a RTTY net once in a while, like on our 10-meter net or something? I think it would be fun.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. Pick a day or either before or after the 10-meter net, or maybe in place of it, do it as a RTTY thing. We'd have to everybody have to figure out how to do it on their own, but and then connect in. But it's something we can certainly do and play with, or once we got everybody on, we could say, all right, well, maybe the 4th Monday of the month is the RTTY 10-meter net or something.
Just listen to this. I don't know that. Probably not loud enough. I don't know what Okay, can you hear that?
No.
Okay, one more time. Nothing. Okay, probably not loud enough. Okay, sorry. I had some audio somewhere here. Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea, I like that, but maybe it turns out the same way than when we did the slow scan. I mean, in the beginning.
Yeah, well, you're right, but we did it a couple of times before it went away.
Yeah. Well, we can do anything, guys. Anything you want. We can experiment and try it, and
yeah, right.
It can't hurt.
Yeah, the thing is, if we would do it after the net, I think when we use slow scan, we can be on the same frequency. If you use RTTY, you have to be in the CW portion.
Oh, okay.
I think so. It's below 100. For instance, on 20 meters, you have to be below 4150, I think.
But one of the reasons I like RTTY is it's like nostalgic. It's like old. And Juergen, when you showed that model 33 with the paper tape, man, that's what I used in the 70s in college, learning to program. So we had it hooked to the main. So
those machines, I think they were amazing. However,
they're unbelievable.
If you ever been in a room where there were 20 machines and they were all running, they all had those cases, I mean, they all were soundproof. Supposedly, it was
Yeah.
noisy. It was so noisy.
Yeah, well, we had
a
it.
stock ticker tape.
Yeah, that's
but-
what we had. That's what we had at UMass. We had a terminal room. There must have been like 20 or 30 of those Model 33s in there, all going at it. You know, it smelled like hot oil, and that was great.
But one of the advantages of using those old paper tape machines, because I actually did back in the late 60s, is that you always were in an air conditioned room if it was summer.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
So
true.
you were the only people in the building that got air conditioning because you had to have it because of the paper tape. That was great.
Right, it was stuff would overheat otherwise, right? Yeah.
No, it would get all soggy and it would gum up in the machine. It wouldn't go.
Okay.
Yeah. So it had to be kept dry. So
Nice.
of course you got air conditioning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would pull the moisture out. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Well, it's something we can certainly tinker with as a group, as a net, as an HCRA activity. You know, it doesn't take much. Anyways, like to thank Juergen, first of all. Very well done meeting tonight. Thank you very much for the information. I'm sure you'll get at least a few of us on RTTY, maybe more. Thank everybody. You guys, thanks for joining us tonight. And like I said, we have another one in 2 weeks on the YLRL group, and it's not only for, I mean, the group is only for women, but it's a time to learn something about it. Young Ladies Radio League, and with a growing number of women in ham radio, it's something to learn about and possibly to get some of them to become more active in it. So anyways, everybody have a good week. And if you're getting more than a couple inches of snow, be safe and let the machine do the digging, not you. And we don't want to hear about anybody going to the hospital because they put themselves into cardiac arrest shoveling snow. But everybody have a good weekend, and thanks for joining us on another Share the Knowledge. The video for this will be up. I'll be getting it to Vanessa the next couple of days, and it'll be up when she has time to get it up, so you can mention it to others, and it'll be posted on the HCRA website. So everybody have a good evening. Hopefully we'll hear you on RTTY in the future.
Yeah,
Thanks,
a lot.
Juergen.
Thanks, Juergen.
Thanks again, Juergen. Good night.
Great job, Juergen. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot.
Juergen.
Night, all.
Okay, bye.
73s.